The dirt is trying to poison you. The sky is the wrong color. Sound itself is broken. High-pitched noises arrive before low-pitched ones, like the universe forgot how waves work. And you are so far from Earth that if your heart stops right now, the closest hospital won't even know about it for 22 minutes. You are the first human to actually live on Mars. And the strangest part? Your body clock might prefer it here. Here's your first day on a planet that wants you dead in at least 6 different ways, and the weird, unsettling reasons you might start to belong. Step outside. Not really. You can't. If you cracked your helmet visor right now, you wouldn't slowly suffocate. You wouldn't gasp and choke like the movies show. You'd be unconscious in about 15 seconds. Not because there's no oxygen, though there basically isn't, 0.13%. But because the air pressure around you is so low that your blood would begin to boil. Not from heat, from physics. There's a threshold called the Armstrong limit, the minimum pressure a human body can tolerate before your internal fluids start turning to vapor. Mars is 10 times below that line. You're not standing in a thin atmosphere. You're standing in almost nothing. If Earth's atmosphere were a 300-page book, Mars gets less than 3 pages. 95% of those pages are carbon dioxide. The temperature right now averages minus 63 Celsius. But here's the thing that doesn't match your expectations. At the equator, at noon, in summer, it can hit 20 degrees Celsius. That's a cool spring morning in London. You'd almost feel comfortable. And then the sun sets and the temperature drops 100 degrees Fahrenheit by midnight because there's no atmosphere to hold the heat. The air just lets it escape into space. Wind screams past you at 110 miles per hour. You barely feel it. The atmosphere is so thin that the force on your body is 1/9 what that wind speed would mean on Earth. That dramatic dust storm from The Martian, the one that kicked off the whole plot, couldn't actually blow you over. It couldn't tip a lawn chair, but it could coat every solar panel in your settlement with fine rust-colored powder and block out the sun for weeks. The wind on Mars isn't dangerous because it's strong. It's dangerous because it carries the dirt, and the dirt is a problem we'll get to. But first, look around. The sky is wrong. Not red exactly, more like butterscotch, a hazy yellowish brown that makes everything feel like an old photograph left in the sun. Iron oxide dust hangs in the atmosphere, absorbs the blue light, scatters the rest. Every direction you look, the world is stained amber. Now wait for sunset, because this is where Mars stops making any kind of sense. As the sun drops toward the horizon, the sky around it turns blue. Not warm blue, cold blue. A pale, eerie, smoky glow that spreads in a fan shape above the setting sun while the rest of the sky fades to ash grey. On Earth, you get blue skies and red sunsets. On Mars, you get a butterscotch sky and blue sunsets. The entire color scheme of the sky is inverted. The sun itself is small, about 2/3 the size it looks from Earth. Dimmer, colder, slightly bluish white, half the light you're used to. Everything looks like it's being lit by a dying fluorescent bulb. 2 moons hang above you. Phobos, the larger one, rises in the west, sets in the east, backwards. It crosses the entire sky in about 4 hours. It's too small to fully eclipse the sun. Instead, you'd see a dark coin sliding across the solar disk, casting a fast-moving shadow. Deimos, the smaller moon, is just a bright dot, barely more than a star. At night, with no light pollution and almost no atmosphere to scatter anything, the stars are staggering. The Milky Way would be the clearest you've ever seen it. But there's no North Star. Mars's axis doesn't point where Earth's does. Your pole star is somewhere near Deneb, and it's not even that close. This is the most alien sky any human has ever stood under. Now listen, this is the part nobody talks about. In 2022, Perseverance's microphones gave us the first ever audio recordings from another planet. And what scientists found was bizarre. Mars has 2 speeds of sound. Below 240 Hz, the deep sounds, bass, rumbles, sound travels at about 240 meters per second. Above 240 Hz, the higher pitch stuff, sound travels at 250 meters per second, 10 meters per second faster. This happens because of something specific to carbon dioxide at low pressure. The molecules don't have time to transfer vibrational energy at higher frequencies, so the medium behaves differently depending on what's passing through it. Mars is the only place in the solar system where this happens inside the range of human hearing. What does that actually mean for you? Imagine an orchestra playing on Mars. On Earth, every note, high and low, reaches your ears at the same time. On Mars, the oboe arrives before the tuba. The piccolo arrives before the cello. Music would sound smeared in time, like someone dragged a finger across the audio. Conversations would feel slightly off, the consonants reaching you a beat before the vowels settle. And everything is quieter. 20 decibels quieter than the same sound on Earth. High-pitched noises, whistles, bells, birdsong if there were any birds, would be nearly inaudible. You could be standing 16 feet from someone and struggle to hear them talk. When Perseverance first started recording, the science team kept checking the equipment. They thought something was broken. It wasn't. Mars is just that quiet. The planet's natural soundtrack is wind and near silence. You touch the railing on your habitat's outer platform and get a static shock. Then another when you grab the door. Then another. Mars has no liquid water in the soil, which means no electrical grounding. The dry regolith builds static charge in everything. Every surface you touch after walking outside will zap you. Your equipment has to be designed around this. Your suit has to be designed around this. The air inside the airlock, when the outer door seals and you crack your helmet, smells metallic. Sharp, like spent gunpowder with a chemical bite. That's the iron oxide dust and the perchlorate salts mixing with the warmth of a pressurized atmosphere. Apollo astronauts said lunar dust smelled the same way. But Mars dust has something the moon doesn't, perchlorates. And that changes everything. The soil under your boots is laced with perchlorate salts, chlorine-based compounds at concentrations of about 0.5% to 1%. Everywhere. Not in patches, not in certain regions. Everywhere we've looked, every lander, every rover, every orbital scan, the entire surface of Mars is coated in a chemical that attacks your thyroid gland. Perchlorates block iodide uptake. Chronic exposure disrupts your hormone production. That's bad enough. But here's what makes it worse. Under Martian ultraviolet light, perchlorates activate. They become bactericidal. In experiments simulating Mars surface conditions, bacterial cells died within minutes. Combine the UV activated perchlorates with iron oxides and hydrogen peroxide, both already present in the soil, and cell death rates jump nearly 11 times higher than UV alone. After 60 seconds. This isn't hypothetical danger. This is the ground you're standing on becoming a sterilization field every time the sun comes up. Any dust that gets tracked through your airlock isn't a housekeeping problem, it's a medical one. Every grain needs to be scrubbed off before it reaches breathable air. But here's the turn you don't see coming. Heat those same perchlorates above 500 degrees Celsius and they break apart. They release oxygen. The very chemical that poisons you can also let you breathe. NASA is already engineering bacteria with transplanted genes designed to eat perchlorates and spit out oxygen as a byproduct. Your worst enemy on Mars might become your most valuable resource. The dirt is trying to kill you, and you might end up mining it for air. Now. The threats you've seen so far, the pressure, the cold, the radiation, the toxic soil, those are dramatic. They'll kill you fast if something fails. But the thing that might actually break you is quieter, slower, and it's already started. Your bones are dissolving. On the International Space Station, astronauts lose 1 to 1.5% of bone mineral density per month. Muscle mass drops up to 20% in a single month without heavy exercise. Strength drops 30%. And that's at 0G with 2 hours of daily resistance training. The exercise slows it. It doesn't stop it. Some astronauts never fully recover their bone density after returning to Earth. The loss may be permanent. Mars has gravity. 38% of Earth's. A 180-pound person weighs 68 pounds here. That sounds like enough to keep your skeleton loaded, but there's a number that should terrify you. A NASA study found that partial gravity below 0.4 G is likely insufficient to maintain musculoskeletal conditioning over the long term. Mars is 0.38 grams. We are 0.02 of a gram below the line. And here's the thing, that line is a guess. An educated guess extrapolated from 0G data because we have literally no long-term human data from partial gravity. None. Not from the moon. Not from centrifuge studies. Nothing. Every human who's ever lived has experienced either 1G or approximately 0G. The space between those two numbers is a complete blank. We're betting that 38% is enough, and we have no proof. Your eyes might betray you too. In low gravity, fluids shift toward your head. Cranial pressure increases. Astronauts on the ISS develop swelling behind their eyes, flattening of the eyeball, changes in vision. Nobody knows if a third of Earth's gravity is enough to prevent this. You could spend years on Mars and slowly go far-sighted without understanding why. Now here's where the hard science ends and the unknown begins. Everything I just told you is measured, published, confirmed. What comes next is not. No mammal has ever been conceived, carried, or born in partial gravity. We have no idea what a pregnancy looks like at 0.38 G. No idea how bones form, how a heart develops, how a brain wires itself when gravity is a third of what evolution designed it for. Children born on Mars might develop longer limbs, thinner bones, bodies shaped by a world their parents weren't built for, and they might never be able to visit Earth. 1 gram could be crushing for a body that's never known it. That's not a prediction, that's a blank page. Your alarm goes off at 0600 Mars local time. The lights in your habitat shift blue. Short wavelength light designed to trick your circadian system into thinking it's morning. It almost works. A sol is 24 hours and 39 minutes, 37 minutes longer than an Earth day. That doesn't sound like much. But after 37 sols, your clock and Earth's clock are 12 full hours apart. Your noon is their midnight. Then it drifts back, slowly, relentlessly. It never sinks. When NASA engineers worked Mars time during the Pathfinder mission in '97, they lasted 1 month before they quit. During the Spirit and Opportunity missions, 82% of controllers reported sleepiness, irritability, and decreased concentration. One person walked into a wall, another fell asleep at a freeway on-ramp. Later, during the Phoenix mission, NASA tried blue light therapy. 87% of the team eventually adapted. And here's the strange thing. When you put humans in isolation with no time cues, no sunlight, no clocks, their natural circadian rhythm settles at about 24.5 hours, almost exactly a Martian soul. About 1% of humans carry a gene called Cry1 that stretches their internal clock to 24.5 hours. These people are chronic night owls on Earth. They're always tired, always drifting, always out of sync. One researcher put it this way: they are essentially playing catch-up for their entire lives. On Mars, they'd be perfectly timed for the first time ever. Night owls are literally built for this planet. So your soul has a rhythm. You check life support, you work, you eat food that was either shipped from Earth or grown in perchlorate scrubbed soil in the habitat greenhouse. You exercise for 2 hours because your bones are dissolving, and this is the only countermeasure that kind of works. And then, in the evening, you check for messages. A signal from Earth takes between 3 and 22 minutes to arrive, depending on where the two planets are in their orbits. You send a video to someone you love. The earliest they can respond is 6 to 44 minutes later. There is no such thing as a conversation. Every exchange is a letter, and then, every 26 months, it gets worse. Mars and Earth pass to opposite sides of the sun. For about 13 days, no signal gets through. Total blackout. You can't call anyone. Nobody can call you. If something breaks, if someone gets hurt, if the reactor hiccups, you handle it or you don't. No mission control, no advice, no voice from home. You are more isolated than any human in history, including every astronaut who's ever lived, because even the Apollo crews could talk to Houston. You look up at night. Earth is visible. A blue dot, bright enough to notice, small enough to cover with your thumbnail. Everyone who's ever lived, everyone you've ever known is on that dot, and you can't reach them for another 11 days. In the longest isolation study ever conducted, 520 days, 6 people sealed in a mock spacecraft in Moscow. 4 of the 6 developed sleep and psychological problems. Their activity levels plummeted in the first 3 months and never recovered. On the simulated return leg, the crew spent 700 more hours in bed than on the way out. They were shutting down. There's a well-documented phenomenon called the third quarter effect. in any isolated mission, submarines, Antarctic stations, space analogs, morale craters at about 75% of the way through. Doesn't matter if the mission is 3 months or 3 years. Your psychology counts down whether you want it to or not. But you're not going home. There is no 75% mark. There is no return leg. And nobody knows what that does to a human mind when the countdown has no end. So this is where the video changes. Everything up to now has been about how Mars is trying to kill you. The pressure, the poison, the silence, the loneliness, the slow erosion of your own skeleton. And all of that is real. But here's what's also real, and nobody can explain it yet. Your body clock almost matches the planet. There might be a gene that makes some people better suited for Mars than Earth. The dirt that poisons you can be cracked open for oxygen, and under your feet, something might already be alive. Curiosity detected methane on Mars. Not just once, seasonal pulses of it, rising and falling with the Martian year. On Earth, methane usually means biology. Living things producing gas. But it could also be geological, chemical reactions in the rock. ESA sent the Trace Gas Orbiter specifically to settle the question. It found almost no methane at all, which contradicts Curiosity's readings. Nobody can explain the discrepancy. The question is still open, and in June 2024, Perseverance found a rock in Jezero Crater that NASA designated a potential biosignature. They drilled a core sample. It's sitting in a sealed tube on the Martian surface right now, waiting to be brought home. No determination has been made, but if that rock contains what some scientists think it might, then you're not the first life on Mars. You're just the first life on Mars that knows it's there. Here's what nobody can tell you, and the honest answer is that most of this is speculation now, not confirmed science. We don't know if Mars can be changed. Some researchers think you could release CO2 from the polar caps and start thickening the atmosphere. Others ran the numbers and concluded there simply isn't enough carbon dioxide left. The solar wind stripped it away billions of years ago, and it's not coming back. A NASA chief scientist once proposed parking a magnetic shield at a point between Mars and the Sun to deflect the solar wind, like giving the planet a force field. It's a real concept presented at a real NASA workshop. It is also very far from real engineering. What we know is smaller and more concrete. We know you can pull oxygen out of Martian carbon dioxide. A device on Perseverance already proved it. We know bacteria can be engineered to break down perchlorates. We know the soul almost matches human biology. These are toeholds, not a ladder. You came here because Mars is the most alien place a human being could actually reach. But the strangest thing about living here isn't the blue sunsets, or the poisoned dirt, or the planet with 2 speeds of sound. It's that your body, a machine built by 4 billion years of evolution on a world 140 million miles away, might slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing, start to fit. And no one alive today can tell you what happens after that.